One eternal question has plagued mankind as humanity wallows in its feeble ignorance. The age-old inquiry: when is the Switch Pro? This question has gripped humanity in its clutches since the dawn of time, even before the Nintendo Switch existed and Nintendo was even established as a company. Mankind has speculated as to what this fabled machine would look like for generations. Would it be 4K? Is it stronger? Faster? Sexier? Will it be powerful enough to run some of the most graphically intense games of all time? Can I do my taxes with it? Will it give me self-help advice? Can I cook with it? Dare I prose, will I be able to make pizza rolls with it while I use the calculator app simultaneously? It seemed like humanity would never be satisfied in its endless thirst for knowledge. But today, our species has made a huge step towards the truth. And Nintendo has the answer. After years of speculation, rumors, questioning, theorizing, Nintendo has exactly what we crave, what we thirst, and what we desire for. This is our enlightenment. The Switch Pro is here, and it
is literally just a Switch with a bigger screen. Yeah, to say the least, people haven't been willing to shut up about the Switch Pro for quite a bit of time. And after years of excessive speculation, rumors, and leaks, Nintendo finally unveiled a new model of the Switch, and it's safe to say it's not really what a lot of people were asking for. This is the new Nintendo Switch OLED, and it sure does exist. With a name like that, you can immediately tell that the biggest feature that they're advertising with it is totally the new kickstand, baby. This model has a brand new 7-inch OLED screen that's a whopping 0.8 inches bigger, because if they went for 0.9, the price would go up about another $80. Alongside the bigger screen, there's a new kickstand that hopefully won't break off at the slightest touch, as well as a new dock that has an Ethernet port built into it, double the internal storage space with 64 gigabytes, better speakers, and that's it. Yeah, I don't think this is what most people had in mind when they thought of a new upgraded Switch. The OLED screen is a nice feature, and there's definitely a notable difference in quality with it when you see one in person. The original PS Vita model is in my opinion one of the best looking handhelds with its OLED screen, so having a bigger one on the Switch is definitely appealing, but because of the nature of it, most people won't realize how noticeable of an upgrade it is unless they see a model in person for themselves. The same thing can kind of go for the enhanced audio. Aside from the screen, everything else that's new is nice to have, but nothing that can't already be done now with the Switch in some way or form through external accessories. You can always get more storage with micro SD cards. Firmer attachable kickstands do exist, and by now the lack of a built-in Ethernet port on the current Switch dock has caused some people who care to buy an external adapter for it. I say some instead of most because smashers wouldn't want to be caught dead with an Ethernet cable and a good connection.
Why are you running? Why are you running?
I wasn't expecting anything crazy like 4K support, but I was at least hoping for something with a bit more power like with what the new 3DS did. There's so many games on Switch, including some of Nintendo's own games that are clearly starting to have trouble running on the system, and I was expecting a little bit of a bump in power to help games with lower frame rates run smoother, but it looks like even that was too much to ask for. If we weren't getting any kind of performance boost for the Switch, I would have at least expected more significant upgrades to the current hardware, but then I saw that it has the exact same battery life as the original Switch model. Okay? It's also funny how they're touting the better audio as a feature for the OLED. Meanwhile, it still doesn't have Bluetooth headphone support, despite the Switch having Bluetooth connectivity for its own controllers, because yeah, that's totally logical. And of course, the controllers are the exact same, so even though those new white Joy-Cons look clean, they'll start drifting within a few months, as per usual. I wouldn't even call this a middle-of-the-road upgrade, because that's honestly giving too much credit. There's not really any substantial differences from the original Switch model outside of the OLED screen. I also find it really funny how the PS Vita had an OLED screen and Bluetooth headphone support in 2011, and Nintendo can barely even match that in 2021, you know, a decade later. Nintendo's in kind of a weird spot of the Switch, regardless of whether they choose to improve the hardware significantly or not. If they did upgrade the Switch's performance, they could potentially divide the huge user base and alienate some users from being able to play new games on the older hardware. I don't think they would go as far as to making some games only playable on an upgraded Switch, but we would start to see a lot of newer games struggle to run on the original hardware. This isn't even taking into consideration the added strain that COVID will have on manufacturing and supply of that kind of system. On the other side though, choosing to do what the OLED is doing, where it's pretty much the exact same, means that the Switch is going to continue to stagnate and fall behind gradually, especially as next-gen consoles start to become more readily available. The tech the Switch has is almost 5 years old now, and Nintendo losing a lot of third-party developers because of the limited hardware is a real possibility. It's a tricky situation, but we'll see how their decision plays out for them. Personally, I'm kinda miffed on the Switch OLED. I currently have a launch Switch with a battery life that clearly has seen better days, and because of that, I was looking forward to any kind of Switch revision to upgrade to initially. I was also really wanting a potential boost in power to help older titles and make them run even better. But after seeing how the OLED isn't really making any significant improvements, especially with the battery life being relatively the same, I don't really feel the need to upgrade right away. And from what I've seen, this seems to be the general consensus online, so who is this really being marketed towards? It's not a big enough upgrade to make hardcore fans want to buy it, and for most casual players that haven't gotten a Switch yet, the Switch Lite is probably going to be more appealing towards them. If you somehow don't already own a Switch and want one still, the OLED is definitely going to be your best bet, but it's not really drastically fixing any of the base problems that the Switch has right now. It won't be long before we see how the OLED turns out, but what do you guys think about it? Leave a comment below, and if you liked hearing my thoughts, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos in the future. Now, if you don't mind me, I'm going to go and salivate over the 10 new seconds of Splatoon 3 gameplay we got.